Episode 5, Season 3. This is Chapter 21. The title of this particular episode is Healing, and for me, this was a much more pleasant experience. It had the ridiculousness of the first season. It was less serious. There were really happy moments. Actually, let me just get this off my back. Gerald is back, but that doesn't come. It comes later on. But Gerald is back at least, and yeah, he's looking good. There are things that he tried to explain about the process into getting to where he is currently, and as usual, I never understood them. Jeremy clearly never understood them, but I'm glad he's back. And to continue with the feel good of this episode had so many things in it, and so I'm going to divide them into bits, not chronologically, but I find that there were pockets of different things within the episode. Number one of the Nettle soup saga. The Nettle soup saga is Jeremy. Jeremy has a chef. And every time I was looking at this chef, I was thinking of someone. If you've watched the Grand Tour, I'm sure you guys remember a character called Giovanni. I was watching this and I kept thinking, this Luca guy might have been Giovanni. You know, all the characteristics are there because Giovanni during those particular seasons used to prepare food for Clarkson and the rest of the team, and here he is making food. He's actually a very good chef. So every time I saw Luca, Giovanni came to mind. And in this particular episode, Luca is more of a super chef. So he creates this nettle soup that Clarkson is supposed to sell in the shop, but again, the man never calculates, and so he ends up having a problem with trying to sell this particular product because the production cost was higher than what he thought he was supposed to sell it for. And so when he has this particular price and an expiry date for a particular time, yeah, things did not go well for that. The other thing was, I think for me, the most, I wouldn't call it interesting, I would call it an interesting turn of events. Because the Clarkson farm has always been about, the fields and growing things on the field. But Clarkson came with an idea about mushrooms. And so in this particular episode, we get to see him actually create a mushroom farm inside a bunker. And I don't understand how Clarkson has such a big farm that it has a Second World War bunker in it. That's pretty cool. I would want to know the story behind that particular bunker and the idea that they actually exist. And so during that particular period, he introduced this show keeps just blowing my mind every time. Every new character that is introduced, from Charlie to Gerald to Caleb, any character who just pops up is an interesting personality. For example, now when they're setting up the mushroom farm inside the bunker, a builder is introduced. His name is Alan the builder. And every time Alan came on screen, I was just fascinated by him as a character. He kept using the word fucking hell for everything. And so I thought that was pretty unique about either the British people or the people that Clarkson chooses to work with. They're very colorful personalities. His energy, his demeanor, he reminds me of a blend between Gerald and Caleb. He's the perfect blend between the two because sometimes you can't understand what he's talking about. Sometimes he makes a lot of sense. Sometimes it's just too feel good and excited to just be there. So I thought that was pretty interesting too. The other thing about the mushrooms now, it's I can't wait for the next episode. The next episode is going to be super interesting because now he has planted mushrooms. And so these guys who came to actually set up the farm, they gave Clarkson a science lesson on what mushrooms actually are and the history of mushrooms. And I could just see Clarkson's mind working on how he was going to set up. You know, the guy is mischievous, and you can just see the mischievous ideas just boiling in his head. Because if you don't know what a mushroom is, if you watch the episode, you understand. If you don't watch the episode or just do a quick Google search on what mushrooms are, it's a very, very intriguing lesson that I also never knew, but it was an intriguing lesson. But I know it's going to go down south with the next episode. So they've set up the mushroom, and it looks like a good financial idea. So I hope that it works for him. But I just can't wait to see what they even set up in the end at the end of the episode what is going to be going on with the mushrooms in the next episode. So apart from that, going on with the pigs and the piglets, he brought in the boar that for the boar to actually again procreate and create more piglets. I don't know why he's taking it back to the piglets, yet he made so many losses in the previous video, but maybe he has a plan. But he loves these animals. Actually, he actually admitted that he actually loved the pig the most. The piglets have actually grown because this is more of spring and summer, and so the environment looks better. It's less snowy, it's less rainy, it's more of the sun is out, the land is dry, they can actually cultivate. And so you can actually see the piglets have grown and they're having so much fun within the farm. Now we get to a point whereby now they have to separate them because they are more of teenagers. They just want to mate. So they have to separate the sisters from the brothers. They have to separate the males from the females so that they don't start procreating. I thought that was interesting, and it was also fun watching Clarkson trying to catch a piglet. That was pretty funny. Background, if you haven't seen the episode, read what is on his shirt. Pretty interesting message. Then there were other subtle moments, like when they went to continue creating the dam. The dam has been giving them a big problem, and now they were trying to actually make it happen. But again, Caleb, Clarkson now being construction workers, there are some construction stereotypes that they brought in that made them do that classic thing from Grand Tour and Top Gear that we remember Clarkson for, which is doing absolutely nothing. You know, you spend a whole day and they did nothing. They actually did, they went to the minus point whereby they undid what they had done in the previous episode by laying a certain pipe. So I thought that was pretty entertaining. What they do with Steve, that was pretty good entertainment in terms of if you are looking at it from a production point of view, from a film production point of view. So still continuing from the mushrooms and Clarkson slowly evolving. You can hear, I heard of him talk about planting mustard, which are again evolving from what they usually plant in England and trying to think outside the box. Andy came back. You remember Andy from who introduced the idea of planting two different crops at the same time in order for one to give nutrients to the soil so that it can help the other product. So they came in and started to do what can I call this? A test. They started testing the plants to see how they were doing from a nutrition point of view. And so we got a moment whereby they realized that there was a certain mineral that was missing, and so they had to get Caleb to now go back and start spraying the farm with something to help improve on that mineral. And Caleb was complaining all through. He was whining. It's clearly that he doesn't like the idea of doing whatever they're doing, and he's anti-Andy, I feel, in a way. He doesn't really like what Andy is trying to do with the farm, and he's feeling like he's being I just love the way he was complaining about everything. But anyway, apart from that, now this episode also introduced goats, kids actually. Introduced small goats, which are kids. And then you get to also learn about the complexity again of farming, whereby because they are kids, because Clarkson has a problem with some things that have overgrown somewhere. And so in order to get rid of them, there are two things he can do. He can get a machine to actually cut everything, but his machine had an issue, it couldn't go that deep. Or he could get goats to actually come and eat that particular overgrown whatever. And so he gets kids, which is baby goats. And then again, I was shocked to learn that he had to get a particular milk that is super expensive, you know. And so just feeding these goats in itself is a loss. You're spending a lot of money feeding the kids. And I don't know how it will end up compared to actually getting a machine to actually do the job. But it was interesting now that we've introduced a different angle, the goat angle, into the story. And you get the feeling that they're going to get attached to these goats because they're like really cute animals. And from the past, you've seen their relationship with cuteness, especially Lisa and Clarkson. Their banter in terms of the cost of just keeping and maintaining those gods, gold, it's pure gold. Between Lisa, Caleb, and Clarkson, it's pure gold. So this is another good episode. I really enjoyed this from the fact that it was more entertaining. It allowed itself to play. At the end of the show, Gerald comes back, which was a welcomed issue. I'm just glad the old man was okay. I'm just glad that he was able to come back and he was actually, he could actually talk, he could walk, he could do his job. You know, that was pretty cool. Yeah, and by the end of the episode, I was like, yes, this now feels like season 1 of Clarkson show. Everything is playful. There's also that idea of understanding the complexity of farming. For example, you just can't make up a decision to create something and go sell it. You have to calculate it very well before you begin. With what happened to the Nettle soup, saga, whereby you create an idea out of nowhere, you put it out, and then later on realize that it will actually make you a loss because you cannot sell it too high, you cannot sell it too low, and you also have to have an expiry date on the product. Wow. Yeah, that just shows how complex farming in Britain is. So yeah, this was a really good show. If I was to give this out of 5, I would give this a 4.5. I was entertained throughout. Yes, there was those farming complexity and actually filing the piglets and everything, but generally it got me engaged throughout. So basically that's it. Remember to always watch what you enjoy and enjoy what you watch. I have a playlist for the whole season. We are not done yet, but I have a playlist that once it's done will be up. But yeah, this was a good episode. I hope you guys liked it. Let me know what you thought about the episode. If you've seen it, do you think that it's a good idea to actually have the goats? Is it more expensive? And what's the deal with the piglets? You know, now that Clarkson wants more piglets, do you think that's a good idea, or are we going to see another problem with the piglets? So basically, that's it. Remember to always watch what you enjoy and enjoy what you watch. I would urge you to subscribe, and I shall see you on the next one.